Mama.
Please, my check was late, so I couldn't buy any food. I need my money, please.
You are breaking my heart here. This is for you. And this is also for you. It's for you. Shut up, you old
What the fuck is going on here?
Trying to be some kind of hero or something here?
No, man.
What the fuck are you guys doing in here, huh?
Got a problem, buddy?
Oh, no problem.
Nah, you ain't got no problem, right?
That's right.
Just be cool. Hold this. Yo, Bobby. Yo, come here, man. Come on.
Now, I advise you to take that beer out the trunk of your car. And I advise you, Smiley, put that knife away.
You advise? That's a pretty big word for a nigga.
Okay, buddy?
Yeah, sure.
In the brutal, chaotic heat of 1975, the final, bloodiest days of the Vietnam War trap American soldiers John Eastland and Michael Jefferson in a nightmare. Completely surrounded by an overwhelming wave of Viet Cong forces, their platoon is cut down in the mud as mortar shells and tracer rounds shred the jungle canopy. When a sudden explosion knocks them dazed and bleeding into the dirt, they look up into the barrels of enemy rifles. Stripped of weapons and bound, they are forcefully dragged away into the deep shadows of the jungle. They are brought to a makeshift enemy encampment where a cold commander intends to break the prisoners' spirits through pure terror. To send a gruesome message, an executioner steps forward and brutally decapitates a helpless American prisoner right before John and Michael's eyes. It is clear they are seconds away from the same fate. However, just as the executioner steps up to John, the battlefield erupts into chaos. Michael's survival instincts kick into overdrive. Despite his bounds, he tackles a nearby guard, manages to slice his ropes using a dropped combat blade, and grabs a fallen weapon. With lethal precision, Michael guns down the executioner just before the blade can fall on John, quickly cuts his friend's bonds, and the two turn the camp into a shooting gallery. Utilizing the smoke of an arriving extraction team for cover, they neutralize the remaining guards, sprint through the exploding camp into the tall elephant grass, and successfully reach safety. It is a miraculous, blood-soaked escape, but the sheer brutality of the ordeal changes John forever, planting a dark seed that will follow him all the way back to the streets of New York. The scene fast-forwards several years, leaving the humid jungles of Vietnam far behind for the concrete, crime-ridden wasteland of late 1970s New York City. We find Michael Jefferson, who has managed to build a modest civilian life despite the heavy trauma of the past. He is now working an honest, grueling job at a gritty, bustling beer and liquor warehouse in the heart of the city. Surrounded by stacks of crates, heavy pallets, and thousands of industrial-sized bottles of imported wine and spirits, Michael tries to keep his head down and focus on providing for his family. However, the streets of New York are completely lawless, and honest work doesn't protect you from the filth lurking around every corner. The peace is shattered when two ruthless workers of a mafia boss boldly marches right into the loading docks of the liquor warehouse. This isn't a random robbery. These punks operate like a shadow government on these blocks, forcefully collecting a protection tax from local businesses and workers just for the right to exist. A short while later, John arrives at the warehouse to meet up with his old friend. Smiling, John offers to buy Michael a cup of coffee after their shift, a simple gesture showing that their bond from the war is still as strong as ever. Over in the main storage area, 3 arrogant thugs from the gang named the Ghetto Ghouls break into the facility, and just start shamelessly stealing cases of beer straight off the store. John, who happens to be bringing heavy pallets into the store, comes right into the aisle and catches them red-handed. Instead of running away, the emboldened thugs step up to John, flashing a wicked, razor-sharp blade to back him down. It's a tense, dangerous standoff, but these street thugs have absolutely no idea who they are messing with. Just as the leader moves to strike, Michael enters the room. Moving with the explosive, synchronized combat precision they learned in the jungle, Michael catches the thugs completely off guard. He effortlessly disarms the knife-wielding punk, breaking his grip in a flash, and completely dispatches the rest of the crew with a barrage of brutal, heavy-handed strikes. The bleeding and humiliated thugs are forced to scramble out of the warehouse. After the intense confrontation at the warehouse, Michael returns home to his modest apartment to meet his loving family, who represent the peaceful future he fought so hard to secure after Vietnam. After spending some time with them, Michael gets ready to head back out, planning to go meet up with John for that beer they talked about earlier. As Michael walks through a secluded area near the docks, the Ghetto Ghouls suddenly launch a vicious ambush, catching him completely off guard. Seeking bloody retribution for the beating they took earlier, the cowards don't fight fair. They swarm him with iron pipes and heavy wooden beams. They beat him terribly, raining down brutal, unforgiving blows even after he collapses to the cold concrete. Tragically, the severe trauma to his spine from the beating leaves him permanently paralyzed from the waist down. After doing his best to comfort Michael's devastated wife, Maria, and promising her that things will be taken care of, John manages to corner and capture one of the thugs involved in the ambush. Dragging the punk into a secluded spot, John conducts a ruthless, terrifying interrogation. Terrified by the absolute darkness in the veteran's eyes, the gang member quickly cracks, coughing up the exact location of their club hideout. Armed with a heavy-duty gun and moving with the silent stealth of a jungle gorilla, John breaches the gang's dilapidated, trash-strewn lair. The Ghetto Ghouls are caught completely off guard, celebrating their hollow victory. Before they can even react or draw a weapon, John opens fire, instantly killing one of the punks with a precise, cold-blooded shot to the chest. The remaining 2 thugs freeze in absolute terror, staring down the barrel of John's gun. Instead of finishing them off right then and there, John forcefully subdues them. He drags the 2 trembling survivors back to the basement, where he binds them tightly. As they beg for their lives in the dim light, John stands over them in total silence, preparing to unleash his own twisted version of justice. The police arrive late that night only to find one of the thugs dead and the other badly injured after the rats ate half of his face. We are introduced to Gino Pontivani, a powerful and ruthless mafia capo who controls New York's meatpacking industry and food distribution networks with an iron fist. He uses his position to run high-level extortion rackets, forcing local businesses to pay massive protection fees just to survive. Inside his operations hub, one of Pontivani's nervous workers approaches him to report a sharp, sudden rise in market meat prices. Instead of being concerned, the arrogant mob boss remains completely indifferent, instantly seeing the inflation as the perfect excuse to hike up his extortion rates and squeeze even more money out of the public. On the other side of town, Detective James Dalton is officially assigned to investigate the brutal executions of the Ghetto Ghouls, realizing someone is systematically wiping them out. He heads into a dim dive bar to seek information from a weary bartender named Ralph, pressing him about the specific girls who were seen with the gang members before they turned up dead. Wanting no part in a murder investigation, Ralph quickly talks and reveals the name of a local street girl named Candy, giving Dalton his first major lead to finding the vigilante. Armed with the tip from the bartender, Detective Dalton successfully tracks down Candy, who turns out to be working as a high-end escort in the city's red light district. Posing as a client, Dalton waits until she confidently approaches his car, expecting a routine transaction. The moment she gets close, Dalton flashes his badge, slams the handcuffs on her wrists, and immediately arrests her on the spot. Instead of taking her down to a loud, chaotic police precinct where lawyers can easily interfere, Dalton takes Candy to a hidden, isolated interrogation room away from official eyes. He locks the door and immediately turns up the heat, planning to use the threat of heavy jail time to force her to cooperate. It is a gritty, old-school police tactic that shows Dalton is willing to bend the rules to get the answers he needs about the dead gang members. Inside the isolated room, Candy initially plays it tough and refuses to break down under Dalton's intense questioning, trying to protect her street connections. However, as Dalton turns up the heat and threatens her with maximum jail time, her confident facade completely shatters. Candy eventually gives in to save herself and cooperates. She provides a detailed description of John. John visits the hospital to check on Michael, who is lying motionless in his bed, heavily bandaged and completely paralyzed. Leaning in close so no one else can hear, John drops his cold demeanor and reveals to his best friend that he successfully tracked down the ghetto ghouls and exacted bloody revenge for the ambush. Seeing the heavy toll the tragedy has taken on his friend's spirit, John looks Michael dead in the eyes and makes a sacred, solemn vow. He promises to fully take care of Maria and the kids, ensuring they will never have to worry about money or safety. The arrogant mafia boss Gino Pontivani heads out to enjoy a night at a high-end steakhouse. When he excuses himself to the washroom, his personal bodyguard enters first, carefully checking the stalls to ensure the room is completely safe before letting the boss enter alone. The moment Pontivani walks in, his security proves useless. John was already hiding inside the restroom, waiting in the shadows. Moving with lethal, silent speed, John launches a sudden ambush with a syringe, subduing the mob boss before he can cry out, and slips him out through a rear exit. Pontivani wakes up bound tightly by heavy industrial chains inside an abandoned warehouse. John stands over him and demands his house address, ignoring the mob boss's desperate pleas. John intends to raid the mobster's home for cash to support Michael's paralyzed family. John brings out an industrial meat grinder and flips the switch. Upon seeing the terrifying machine at work right beneath him, Pontivani instantly breaks down, revealing both his house address and his secret safe combination to save his own life. Armed with the address and safe combination, John goes to Pontivani's mansion and stealthily enters through a rear entrance, moving like a shadow through the dark hallways. However, his quiet infiltration is shattered when a large guard dog suddenly attacks him out of the darkness. John struggles wildly on the floor, fighting for his life against the vicious animal as it snaps at his throat. Using his raw strength, John eventually manages to subdue the dog and break free, gasping for air in the quiet house. Angry with the setup and the unexpected danger he just barely survived, John clears out the safe and returns straight to the warehouse. Without saying a single word, John presses the machine's controls, lowering the chains and grinding Pontivani alive into the roaring blades. Detective Dalton heads to the hospital to check on the lone ghetto ghouls thug who managed to survive the warehouse raid. Dalton hopes to get a statement, but the traumatized gangster is too broken to speak. Striking a dead end with the case, Dalton talks to a charming doctor named Dr. Megan Stewart. He hits it off with her and smoothly asks her out for dinner to clear his head from the grim investigation. The scene shifts to a local restaurant where Dalton and Megan spend the evening together. Over drinks and a warm dinner, Dalton completely drops his tough cop persona, allowing himself to relax and genuinely enjoy her company. The film cuts to a television studio where a news anchor delivers a shocking live broadcast, revealing that high-ranking mafia boss Gino Pontivani has been brutally executed. The reporter details the gruesome discovery of his remains, sending shockwaves through the city. The anchor then reveals that the killer sent a chilling letter directly to the press, claiming responsibility for the murder. The news segment highlights the contents of the letter, where the vigilante signs off as the Exterminator and declares an all-out war on the city's criminals. Inside a secure office, a high-ranking politician and CIA agent Shaw meet to discuss the crisis. The politician demands the Exterminator be eliminated immediately, fearing the media circus will cost them the upcoming elections. To speed up the manhunt, they agree to get help from the New York police. Shaw plans to utilize the NYPD's local intelligence and street-level data to quickly pinpoint and eliminate the vigilante. The film shifts back to the grim streets of the city, where the predator known as the chicken pimp is seen on the sidewalk looking for his next target. He spots a young, vulnerable woman and approaches her, offering a large sum of cash for a quick, private job. Desperate for the money, she agrees, completely unaware of the nightmare awaiting her. The pimp takes her directly to a hidden, run-down brothel and hands her over to his high-paying client, a corrupt and sadistic elite customer. He traps the terrified woman, plugs in a heavy-duty soldering iron, and brutally assaults her with the searing hot tool. Days later, John is walking down the same gritty street when he is approached by the injured woman, who is trying to survive on the sidewalks. Not recognizing the deep trauma she is hiding, she persistently persuades him to pay for her services. John, feeling a sense of empathy for her visible distress, agrees and follows her to a nearby budget lodge.
Have a good time.
Once inside the privacy of the room, the woman begins to unbutton her clothing, immediately exposing the severe, agonizing burn marks covering her skin. John is deeply troubled by the sight and steps forward with genuine concern, stopping her and asking what happened. Breaking down in tears, the woman finally feels safe enough to speak, revealing the horrific torture she endured at the hands of the sadist inside the notorious chicken house. Driven by quiet fury after hearing the woman's story, John returns to his place to gear up. He sits under a dim light, methodically preparing bullets and loading magazines with cold precision. He then opens his old military case, revealing a deadly arsenal of tactical gear, pistols, and handguns nestled alongside M26 fragmentation grenades. Looking at the weapons of war, it is clear John is stepping away from improvised traps and preparing for a heavy tactical assault. John poses as a wealthy client and gains access to the chicken house. He meets with the chicken pimp, pretending to offer him a pipeline of young boys to gain his trust. Once the pimp lets his guard down, John suddenly launches a brutal attack, overpowering him instantly. John pours gasoline all over the terrified pimp and sets him ablaze, leaving him to burn. Hearing a commotion in the next room, John kicks the door open and finds another man in the middle of assaulting a young boy. Without a second thought, John draws his pistol and shoots the predator dead. John then quickly comforts and saves the traumatized boy, rescuing him from the horrific operation. Detective Dalton arrives at the smoking, chaotic scene of the chicken house raid, which is already swarming with emergency vehicles and news crews. As he pushes through the crowd, an aggressive journalist corners him, pressing him with questions about whether the Exterminator is the one responsible for this latest wave of violence and destruction. Dalton brushes past the reporter without a word, heading straight inside the building. Once inside, Dalton is completely paralyzed with shock at the absolute gruesomeness of the crime scene. As he examines the bodies, his horror deepens when he identifies the dead client who was killed while assaulting the boy. It turns out the predator was a high-profile United States senator, making the political stakes of the case instantly explode and putting immense pressure on Dalton's shoulders. Dalton returns to his office, exhausted by the massive political fallout of the senator's death. As he walks in, his colleague informs him that CIA agent Shaw called, demanding an immediate, official briefing on the Exterminator case. Furious with the federal interference and refusing to let Washington co-opt his investigation, Dalton takes the message slip with Shaw's contact info and immediately throws it away. Dalton receives a phone call from Dr. Megan, who calls to check on him. He updates her on the intense investigation, sharing a major breakthrough. Based on a distinct boot print found at the crime scene, he believes the killer wears military-issue footwear. He also reveals that with help from Candy, he learned the Exterminator used an M16 rifle during the Ghetto Ghouls raid, a weapon that could only have been stolen from the army. Hearing how stressed and consumed he is by the case, Megan decides he needs a break. To help relieve his tension and get his mind off the bloody trail, she asks him out to a local jazz concert for the evening. Dalton accepts, grateful for the chance to step away from the hunt, even if only for a few hours. The film cuts to a dimly lit, deserted city street at night. An elderly woman, clutching a paper bag filled with groceries, walks hurriedly down the sidewalk, trying to get home safely. Suddenly, a group of Ghetto Ghouls thugs emerge from the shadows, blocking her path and surrounding her with malicious grins. The thugs close in aggressively, mocking her as they violently snatch her grocery bag, scattering the items across the asphalt, and shove her to the cold pavement.
Hey, Mama.
Please, my check was late, so I couldn't buy any food. I need my money, please.
You are breaking my heart here. This is for you. This is also for you. It's for you. Shut up, you What the fuck is going on here? Trying to be some kind of hero or something here? No, man.
Hearing the commotion, a passing motorcyclist pulls up to the curb to intervene, demanding the gang leave the old woman alone. The Ghetto Ghouls instantly surround the rider. The leader steps up, delivering a sharp threat to stay out of their business or face the consequences. As the Ghetto Ghouls disappear into the night, John emerges silently from the shadows of a nearby alley. He walks directly up to the shaken motorcyclist. Without uttering a word or hurting the owner, John commandeers the motorcycle, stepping onto the bike and revving the engine. Leaving the stunned rider behind with the old woman, John speeds off into the dark streets, using the hijacked ride to pursue the thugs. Driving down a dark avenue, the Ghetto Ghouls are in high spirits, laughing and celebrating their easy robbery of the old woman. They count the stolen cash, completely amused by their own cruelty and dominance on the streets. Totally consumed by their celebration, the gang remains completely oblivious to the danger behind them. John guns the engine and closes the gap in an instant. Before the gang can even react to the roar of the motorcycle, John draws his weapon and shoots one of the thugs dead on the spot, sending the remaining two scattering in pure panic. The two surviving Ghetto Ghouls scramble onto their own ride and flee wildly into the traffic. During the high-speed pursuit, John suddenly loses his balance and crashes the motorcycle, hitting the pavement hard. Seeing the vigilante down and vulnerable, the remaining 2 ghetto ghouls seize the opportunity and decide to finish him off on the spot. With no time to recover his weapon, John scrambles to his feet and runs for his life down the dark street. Behind him, the thugs rev their engines and charge forward at full speed, aiming to run him down and crush him under their wheels. Diving out of the way just in time, John manages to reach his gun and aims it at the oncoming headlights. He fires a precise shot through the windshield, killing the driver instantly. With the driver dead, the vehicle violently loses balance and veers out of control. It swerves sharply across the asphalt, flips over, and crashes down, erupting into a massive ball of flames. Detective Dalton rushes to the chaotic scene of the vehicle crash, but his investigation is abruptly interrupted by CIA agent Shaw. Shaw corners him at the scene, aggressively demanding full cooperation and an immediate briefing on the exterminator's actions. Completely ignoring Shaw's threats and walking away from the federal interference, Dalton immediately calls Dr. Megan for an outing, but she invites him at the hospital. Dalton arrives at the busy hospital, where Dr. Megan quickly meets him. Dodging the staff and patients in the corridors, she quietly sneaks him into a vacant, private hospital room, locking the door behind them to shut out the chaos of the outside world. John slips quietly into the hospital room where his friend Michael lies completely paralyzed and hooked up to life support. Leaning in close, John softly reassures him that he has taken care of everything and has provided Maria with the financial support she needs to survive. Seeing his buddy in absolute agony and trapped in his own body, John asks him to blink twice if he wants him to end his suffering and cut off the life support machine. Michael blinks twice in response. Honoring his final wish, John cuts the machine's wire, finally relieving his friend from the pain and letting him pass away in peace. The flatlining machine instantly triggers a loud hospital alarm, jolting Dalton and Megan awake in the nearby private room. Dalton rushes out into the hallway to investigate and comes face to face with John in the corridor. However, John remains completely calm and peacefully steps into the closing elevator before Dalton can react. Megan runs out to the room and quickly discovers that someone deliberately cut the life support wire, revealing the deceased patient was Michael, John's close friend. Putting the pieces together, Dalton instantly deduces that John is the exterminator and bolts toward the stairs to give chase. Dalton bursts outside, scanning the streets. Seeing no sign of John, he assumes the vigilante has fled and rushes to his car, speeding off to the police station. As Dalton drives away, John steps into view from a dark corner of the parking lot. Dalton arrives back at the precinct, bypassing the desk officers and heading straight for his office. With grim determination, he strips down and cleans his service weapons, checking the magazines and locking them into place. Knowing that the law is no longer enough to stop the exterminator, Dalton loads up his tactical weapons, hardening himself for the inevitable and violent confrontation ahead. While prepping his gear, Dalton's phone rings. It's his computer guy on the line, revealing that the boot print recovered from the crime scene has finally yielded a match. Over the receiver, the tech guy explains that the print belongs to John. He reads off the pulled file, warning Dalton that their suspect is a highly trained operative who served in the elite 144th Ranger Division. John heads towards Maria's apartment. The weight of what he just did hangs heavily over him as he prepares to face her. While inside, John looks into her eyes and gently delivers the devastating news that Michael is gone, comforting her as she breaks down. As the sun comes up, Detective Dalton pulls up to John's apartment building. He leads a heavily armed, tactical police strike team up the stairwell, weapons drawn and ready to breach the operative's stronghold. Stacking up outside the apartment door, Dalton gives the signal. The team breaches the entrance and floods the rooms with overwhelming force, sweeping the perimeter to corner the exterminator before he can react. The tactical team clears the rooms but finds the apartment completely empty. Refusing to lose his lead, Dalton orders his men to dig in and wait for the suspect's return. Having stayed the night at Maria's, John heads back to his building. Spotting the undercover police presence staking out the perimeter, he instantly recognizes the trap and slips away into the streets unnoticed. From a payphone on the street, John dials his own apartment number, and Dalton answers. John calmly gives the detective a specific address, arranging an immediate meeting and warning Dalton to come alone or he will kill him. Dalton agrees to the terms and hangs up, but it turns out Agent Shaw had tapped the call. Under the cover of darkness, Dalton pulls up to the designated meeting location. He steps out of his vehicle alone as ordered, looking around the eerie, quiet site, completely unaware that multiple hidden shooters have already set up sniper positions all around the perimeter. Dalton cautiously walks further into the open ground, keeping his hand close to his weapon. High above on the surrounding rooftops and deep in the shadows, the unseen gunmen track his every move through their scopes, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Up on the rooftop, John suddenly ambushes Dalton from the shadows, quickly disarming him. Instead of hurting the detective, John calmly hands back his weapon, proving he isn't the enemy. Before a word can be exchanged, a sniper's bullet tears through the night air, striking Dalton directly in the chest. The dying Dalton looks up at John and urgently tells him to escape before the shooters finish him off. Before John can react, a volley of gunfire erupts, and both men are struck by the sniper rounds. Hit multiple times, John loses his footing on the edge of the rooftop. He plunges over the side, falling helplessly through the dark air and crashing into the deep water below as the shooters look on. In the final scene, John is seen swimming to the shore, having survived the massacre. Thanks for watching. If you are new, don't forget to subscribe for more of these recaps. Until next time, have a nice day.